good to go.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you very much for taking time to do this interview.
Yeah, no, you're welcome, man. It was my pleasure.
It's great to be able to do it and talk about some killer new music here, no pun intended, with Go Ahead and Die. And with this amazing lineup that's going on here, I mean, it's great to see you guys tackling what happened last year. And when I listen to this album, I've just gotten it within around the last 24 hours, so I've gotten a few spins out of it, and the one thing that comes to my mind is the word vicious, and that's really what feel describes the album. I mean, from the album cover to the lyrics to just the overall music and production, everything about it just feels so raw and vicious, and it's just so great to hear that in 2021.
Oh, yeah. No, that was definitely the intention. Let's make the angriest record of the decade. Let's start the 2020s with a bang, and that was definitely our intention. So I'm glad that it worked on you.
Oh, awesome. So with that in mind, like, how did this all come together?
Well, I guess as early as 2018 was when we had the idea. You may or may not know, but I did the Nail Bomb Point Blank live with my father back in 2018. And it was around then that we noticed our voices were pretty cool together. You know, we both had different vocal approaches and stuff like that. And I would say that was when the idea was sparked. And then the band itself started last year in 2020, probably around like May, April. And yeah, it was just kind of a father-son. Let's get nitty-gritty and write an old school metal record. Based on everything that was going on in the world last year, such as COVID-19, the police brutality protests and stuff like that going on, all the civil unrest. We had the idea to do the band, and then you add all this crazy stuff going on top of it, and, we just came out with this aggressive monster of a record.
Oh, I mean, that's just so great to hear that. I mean, every time that I hear that you get to work with your dad or you're being able to be a part of some great project, I mean, it's always cool to be able to see that come together. I mean, whether it's being able to play for Nail Bomb, whether it's being able to create a new band like this with Go Ahead and Die. I mean, you guys have such a great musical chemistry together, and of course that's going to happen like that when it runs in the family like that. I mean, between you and your dad and your uncle and your other siblings being able to have like all this great musical experience and just seeing all of that. And yeah, I mean, there's so much to be angry about in 2020. I mean, like, I live in Minnesota, and I live roughly about like 10, maybe 15 minutes away from where George Floyd was murdered last year. So there's a lot to be angry with just with that alone. And then when you add everything else on top of that with COVID-19 and politics and everything else around the world, I mean, this feels like that great soundtrack to be able to just unleash all that anger.
Yeah, no, I think that 2020 was a year that it is only going to happen once in our lifetimes, of that magnitude of just crazy stuff going on. So yeah, we definitely didn't want to pass up the opportunity to capture that energy. But on a more positive note, it's going to bring awareness to people who may otherwise not care about it or something. And fans of my father and fans of my work and stuff will get to see like some firsthand opinions and some of our takes on stuff that's going on right now. And considering everything that went on, it's just the perfect, like you said, it's just the perfect soundtrack to the civil unrest. It's the perfect way to kind of symbolize like just the chaos that was last year leading into this year and still going on,
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And I know the more that I get to listen to this album over the days and weeks ahead, it's just I know I'm going to be able to pick up so much more on that the more I listen to the lyrics and the more that I really study the music that's going on behind it. And I really love the style that you guys are going for on this album as well. I mean, it's just like, it's such a great, cool mix of like metal and hardcore and punk and a little bit of grindcore going in there. I mean, it's just like this great conglomerate conglomeration of all these great angry styles together, and when you add that on top of the production value that's going along with it, I mean, it just doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, no, our intentions from the start was to take our favorite aspects of different genres, and my dad and I both are old school heavy metal fans. We like everything from early heavy metal like Sabbath and Priest to extreme, death metal and stuff like Bolt Thrower and Entombed and Morbid Angel. And then on the completely other spectrum, we both really love punk. We love the early hardcore scenes. American bands like Bad Brains and MDC and Black Flag, and then English bands like Doom and Discharge and Broken Bones and stuff like that. So we're fans of this music, and we're making music that we would listen to ourselves, and like I said before, the intention was to take our favorite aspects of death metal, our favorite aspects of punk, our favorite aspects of thrash, and just throw it all together. And that album you're hearing is the product of that, of taking those genres and just mixing them up in a blender.
Oh, and it's just so cool, again, to hear that. I mean, when you go between song to song, I mean, you can really hear those different influences shine, but it sounds like completely original, and it sounds like it's just like it really has that great Cavalera sound to it. And, it's just like, it's hard to ask for anything more than that. I mean, like I said before, I mean, you guys have such a great musical connection together in that family. And, whether it's doing something like Nail Bomb or Soulfly or Cavalera Conspiracy, or in this case with Go Ahead and Die, I mean, it's just like being able to hit all these different territories and still have that great musical chemistry together says a lot about what you guys can do together.
Yeah. My father's a good example of someone who can make multiple bands and multiple sounds work, and do it good, do it classy, and I've definitely taken that approach to my music. I like to keep it fresh. I like to make music that I would enjoy myself, and I like my different bands to have their different identities and stuff. Go Ahead and Die is clearly like old school thrash, death metal, punk kind of crossover, I guess would be the simplest way to put it. But my other band that I'm in, Healing Magic, is like a Neurosis inspired like sludge metal, really, really slow and ambient at times and stuff. And so it's really important to me to have each band have their own identity, have their own sound. Don't reuse ideas you've already done and stuff like that. And even like with Go Ahead and Die, it's inspired by old school metal, but we're taking our own 21st century approach to it and stuff. And I think when you do that, it'll have those elements of pre-existing genres, but it's going to have this twist of its own thing. And that's what Go Ahead and Die has really well. It has those hooks and twists that you don't expect that make it go beyond just a death metal record or just this. It transcends all that.
Oh, I absolutely agreed. And yeah, just like you were talking about before, I mean, of course, with your dad being able to juggle so many different musical projects, I mean, it's great to see you, like you said, being able to have that kind of approach when it comes to your music as well, too, because I loved Restoration when that came out last year. I just thought that was such a great debut, and I can't wait to see what you guys do next in Healing Magic, and just being able to have that great style to it, and, being able to almost completely switch gears into the opposite style here with Go Ahead and Die. I mean, it's great to be able to see that you have like all these different influences that are really hitting you, and whether you're going fast on this album or you start going slower again on Healing Magic or any other endeavors that you have going ahead forward. I mean, it's going to be great to see what you have going forward when it comes to all that.
Yeah, no, I just I guess you could say I'm young, I'm energetic, and I have the I have the drive. I want to put out good music. I want to play good shows, and I want everything to have its own identity, and I want to make my own footsteps as a musician and artist and everything. And yeah, I mean, it's just funny enough being in one band called Healing Magic and one band called Go Ahead and Die. They're almost kind of conflicting images and stuff. But that's also what I think is cool about it, because I'm a multi-dimensional musician. I like everything. There's not really a style of music that I don't like. I'm not a gatekeeper. I'm not an elitist. I love it all. So when it comes to creating my own content, yeah, my influences are coming from everything to the Go Ahead and Die style of like old school thrash, death metal, and punk, to the sludge style of Healing Magic, which is influenced by like Neurosis and Kylesa and Acid Bath and stuff like that. All the way to, I like other stuff like dark wave and goth and electronic and some hip hop and stuff like that. So it all makes its way into influencing my music, and I think that's why I'm good at making multiple different sounds and different musical environments, is because I like so many different styles.
Oh, yeah, and I think that's just so important as a musician as well. I mean, even if you don't do anything with those styles of music, I think it's so important to be able to go out there and experience different styles of music and know what works in different styles, because there's so many different kinds of music out there that could influence you in some way, even if it's just like practicing, whether you're able to make a whole band out of it, whether you just come up with one riff out of it. There's so much that can come out of that. And you know it's funny that you bring up Acid Bath. A little bit of a sidebar when it comes to me. This is my 10th year being able to interview bands, and my third interview ever was Dax Riggs with his solo work, and that was just a really cool experience. And he's another one where, it's just like Acid Bath sounds so different than his solo work, and it's just like, I love it when a band, a musician, anything, like whenever there's music that can transcend different styles and the musicians are able to cover all that territory. Again, no pun intended there with territory, but just like it's so great to be able to expand those horizons like that.
Yeah, no, I think as an artist, you should always keep your mind open. If you have closed-mindedness with yourself, you're going to have closed-mindedness with your music. So to me, it's very important to constantly keep challenging yourself, keep getting into new things. There's nothing I dislike more than a predictable record, or a passionless record or something like that. It's music to me should always be about evolving your sound and growing into different things and trying new things and taking risk. That's the fun of it. And I think to do that well, you need to listen to tons of different stuff, and you need to try different things, and you need to, not be afraid. You know what I mean? It's even like one of those things with my dad. A lot of the thrash elitists, they hate Chaos AD and Roots in early Soulfly and stuff. And to me, that's just surprising, because, I mean, how boring would it have been if my dad just stayed a little underground death metal thrash guy his whole life? He would have never done all these great things that he's done. And then, you were talking about Dax, who's done crazy stuff, and another big influence of mine is Steve Von Till and Scott Kelly from Neurosis, and those guys do like totally off the wall stuff, and that's always been huge to me, is keep an open mind, and your music will be open-minded, and if your music is open-minded, you're going to attract more people. If you got more things going on, more people are going to take interest, and that's a good thing, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. And yeah, I can only see that happening with you and your whole family. Just I can't wait to see everything that comes in the future with that. And of course, with your endeavors coming up in the future as well, too. And, thinking back with Go Ahead and Die, and just like listening to these riffs that are going on, and just listen to the production that just like really manages all of this chaos that's going along with it. When all of this was coming together, and you and your dad wanted to be able to come up with a project together and just be, just like really being able to focus on what happened within the last year. I mean, when you actually started writing together and things were starting to come together, like, how did that feel? Like, knowing that you were hitting these kind of extreme territories together. I mean, what was it like when you were writing those first riffs?
It was great, man. The whole process with writing with my dad was actually a lot of fun because, usually when I was a young kid, he's the big guy on stage. Everybody respects him, everybody this and that, people can be intimidated by him or be starstruck by him and stuff like that. But he was always just kind of my dad. I think a lot of people forget that he was the guy picking me up from school and teaching me how to drive and stuff when I was a teenager and doing dad stuff as well. So for us to work on music together was so cool because to me it was like the big fishing trip you take with your dad or the big hunting trip or you and your dad are going to work on a car. For other people that would be more normal for them. Me and my dad, we made a fucking brutal old school record, and that was like a bonding time for us. And for him, or actually I should say both of us, because we both love extreme music and we both got into it at a really young age. So I feel like for both of us, it was like going back to being 14 and just hearing Celtic Frost for the first time and just hearing Venom and even harder stuff like Entombed and Morbid Angel for the first time. We got to kind of like bro down and do that as father and son. So that was really cool. It was kind of a change up from what most people would do with their dad,
Oh, that just sounds so cool. And, with all the experience that he has and everything that he's learned about being a musician over these years and everything that you're bringing into it too, with new generation and being able to like grow up on those ideals and different bands that he may not have been familiar with or bands that he's shown you. And, just being able to have that musical bond together is just such a cool thing. And, just like you said, a lot of people have those hunting trips or fishing trips or working on a car together. But, being able to say that you worked on an album with your dad and being able to release a brand new band together and seeing that it's on Nuclear Blast of all labels and, just like getting all this great promotion that's going on there. I mean, being able to have those bonding experiences with your dad and those other ventures are a cool thing. But when you're able to have a legacy that people are going to remember this album years down the road is to me is even cooler.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a huge achievement. It's something, like I said, for a few years, it was just an idea. And then in 2020, we got the chance to make it a reality. And, it was amazing, man. We had some good laughs and, we wrote the record at my parents' ranch out in Arizona, out in the middle of the desert. So we were just like totally secluded from society, and we had no distractions, and we would just write all day in like the 110-degree heat and stuff. And it was just a fun process. As fun as it was working on the music, it was fun to hang out and watch movies at night and make dinner and we'd wake up the next morning and listen to what we did the night before and keep working on the ideas and stuff. And it is cool that we got to bond, but it is in a way it will be immortalized as something we did together, and it'll reflect also the craziness of 2020. When 2020 is in the history books, our record will be a product of that, and people will remember that. So I think it's awesome.
Oh, absolutely. And really, there's no better way to be able to show off what 2020 really was than the album cover that you guys have for this. I mean, it just captures everything so perfectly horrible about last year and things that we're still going with right now. And it's just, I mean, it's so great to see that immortalized as an album cover. And I'm just imagining that like in vinyl form and just being able to see that full-fledged picture of it. I mean, yeah, I mean, if anything's going to say 2020, I think it's the album cover.
No, definitely. It's directly inspired by the very tragic death of George Floyd. But in his own way, George changed the world and brought attention to this stuff, and the album cover is inspired from that, while also showing some government officials with devil horns and kind of monstrous looking features and stuff. I think some of the idea was showing these politicians and corrupt police officers and stuff like that, showing them as monsters as almost a way to show their character, and it's just that's something you can't make up, what happened last year, and it's something that we couldn't recreate that energy the same way if we tried. A second Go Ahead and Die record might have something else, some other influence, but this first debut one will always have some of those influences there, and definitely, like you said, that album cover is just a blatant reflection of the system nowadays.
Oh, it's just so true. And yeah, I mean, just everything that's happened last year. I mean, between COVID, between police brutality, the murder of George Floyd, which, again, I mean, like, I was just a few miles away from that, and it just blows my mind that something so close to home just, like, sparked outrage around the world in the right direction. I mean, it obviously, horrific things that happened, but I really hope that it leads to greener pastures in some case, and just, like, being able to show that police brutality should not go the way that it has. And when you add that all on top of COVID and Trump being president the last 4 years, and, just like the civil unrest that's going on, and it feels like the world's just in two camps fighting against each other. I mean, just like you mentioned before, I mean, like, there might be influences on the next album that might not be shown here, but I'm not sure if anything could ever really match the anger or energy that's going on with this debut album.
Yeah, I mean, that will be for the future to hold. I take a lot of pride in my work, so I guarantee that if we do a second record in the future, we are going to do everything we can to keep it equally aggressive, equally interesting, but maybe take influences of things that will happen in the years to come and stuff like that. But yeah, no, it's a great debut, and there's not really a thing I would change about it, and as I said before, it's one of those things that I think we captured a moment, and no matter what the future holds, that moment will be in a time capsule, and people will always be able to look back on this record and reflect and think about what was going on then.
Oh, absolutely. And, thinking about that as well, too, I mean, obviously with you and your dad being able to create all this and create this great music, and despite, just like all the vicious aggression and anger that's going on throughout the album, just hopefully it can lead to, like, positive things, knowing all of these corrupt, horrible things are happening and hopefully leading to some kind of change. What was it like to be able to, like, fill out the rest of this album? I mean, like, being able to get the drums, being able to get the production work on with mixing and mastering, like, how did that all come together?
Man, I feel like I've said it once, I'll say it 9 million times. Recording an album is always a very chaotic process, even under the most professional of circumstances, and it was, it was a mix, this album. It was a lot of fun, obviously, bringing these to life was a great time. The Platinum Underground studio where we recorded at is like such a nice studio. I've actually been joking. It was a little too nice for this record, if you want my opinion. But it was great. It's a very, 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 very good equipment was put into it, and a lot of time was put into it, and effort and everything. And going from demos that me and my dad made with a drum machine to getting Zach from Chemist and Black Curse on drums, bringing it to life was really cool, but at the same time, there's always the chaos of recording. Electronics aren't working, or somebody's running late, or we're running out of time, or we're, this isn't coming out exactly how we thought it was going to, so we have to try some tricks and loops to get around it, and I think that's just part of recording. if I ever do a record that goes too perfectly, I'm probably not gonna like it because it needs a little bit of that chaos and passion and stuff that makes it sounds like a real record and not a bunch of like robots playing it.
Oh, I couldn't agree more with that. And that's what I love so much about this album as well, too, is like, it feels like a real human album. I mean, I'm not hearing quantizing. I'm not hearing a click track. I'm not hearing everything perfectly play to perfection. I mean, it feels like a real authentic album. And it's just so weird to say that considering the past and albums that your dad's been a part of and so many things. But it's just so refreshing to be able to hear that in 2021 where it's not perfectly made. It's a human album, and it that really needs to be appreciated more.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, I think I was actually saying in an interview earlier, somebody asked me, like, what's an issue with my generation that I wish would change? And I guess the more I notice is music that's popular nowadays is very produced, very perfect. There's no mistakes. There's almost an image of perfection to it a little bit, and I don't like that. I don't like bands that sound too perfect. I like there to be some personality. I like there to be real, like drums sounding like a drummer, screaming sounding like you're screaming. It's not meant to be faked at all. I think the closest thing we did to taking a shortcut was using like a little bit of distortion on the microphone, Otherwise, it's all just really authentic, us playing through the whole song. We're not punching a lot of stuff. There was no click track on the drums. Most of the vocals are one or two takes. There was even times they'd kind of ask like, "Oh, hey, there's like a little crack on your voice. Do you want to do it again?" And I'd be like, "No, I like that crack in my voice. It sounds like I'm a real person. It sounds like I'm playing music live."
Oh, it's so true, and I love that approach, and I'm so happy to see that you're taking that to heart as well too, and I hope more people are able to take that approach in the future because it's so much more fun to listen to an album that has real musicians on it rather than just like fixing everything in Pro Tools and where musicians almost aren't even a part of the album at some points. And thinking about that again as well, I mean, with the amazing work that you and your dad did on this album, I think Zach did an incredible job behind the drums on this one. I mean, I was only familiar with him and Chemist, and I'm such a huge fan of what Chemist is and what they've become, and it's just so cool to hear him going from a band that's known more for like their doomy side, and then just hearing Zach go absolutely ballistic on this album.
Yeah, no, Zach did an amazing job. He's a really cool guy. I can comfortably say we're friends after the process, and really enjoyed having him around the camp. Not to mention, he did a phenomenal job. He did not have a ton of practice. I think we practiced for 4 or 5 days before hitting the studio, so that was all pretty fresh for him. He definitely had to learn stuff and get it tight, and he did a great job of it. Almost all of his takes were one pass all the way through. No mess ups, no scratches, very, very minimal editing in post and stuff like that. And like you said, Chemist is more of like a stoner band, doomy kind of sided band, whereas the other group he's in called Black Curse is like a totally chaotic, fast, I don't even know what to call them, but it's good stuff, and he did a great job on that record too. But like what I was getting at is he's a multifunctional artist just like me and my dad are. And that's another reason we picked him, is that he's in a band like Chemist, and then he's in a band like Black Curse. He could do everything in between. So yeah, that's very important to us is to be able to go beyond one dimension of playing, and he did a great job of that.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And, I think with that, I think that's an amazing note to end on. And I thank you very much for taking the time to be able to talk to me about how this whole band came together with Go Ahead and Die. And of course, self-titled debut is going to be coming out June 11th through Nuclear Blast. I love this album from start to finish. I just love everything that it's about, from the conception to the final product. I can't wait to see what you guys do in the future when it comes to future albums, and hopefully touring coming up in the near future with all the bands a part of the Cavalera family in one way or another. And it was just great to be able to take this time and be able to talk to you about everything you got going on.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely welcome, and once again, thank you as well for having me. I'm up and coming, so I'm not a big deal yet. Maybe my family is a big deal and stuff, but I really do appreciate people taking the time to talk to me. It's really great. So thanks for having me as well.
Oh, not a problem. And I can tell from this album alone, and of course, with your other work in Healing Magic, I mean, if you just got even a little bit of what your family has capable when it comes to its musical stylings, I think you're going to be a brand new voice of the metal generation. And I can't wait to see what you got coming down the road in decades and years to come. And, just like, this will be kind of like you were mentioning, like this might be the first experience with a lot of people being able to hear you for the first time. I think they're going to be blown away, and a lot of people are going to start following you after this.
Well, that is very nice of you to say, man, and I'm really appreciative of all the support and the love. We definitely couldn't do it without people like you doing interviews and people buying the album and supporting stuff. So just thank you to everyone.